Hi guys, today I want to talk about the problem of verbal bullying in schools and how to stop it. So, a study in Britain found that at least half of suicides among students are related to bullying. According to the statistics reported by ABC News, nearly 30% of students either were bullies or victims of bullying. And 160,000 kids stay home from school every single day because they're afraid of being bullied. So, along with this, I think that there needs to be some major changes in the education system to confront this problem head on. I think that the problem with verbal bullying is that it is so hard to prove, and we'll get into that soon. But first off, I think that there should be a mandatory education system in schools on how words psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually impact a person. And I think that the student-teacher ratio needs to be lowered. I think that there should be protocol of discipline for verbal bullying. And I think that there should be mandatory mentoring, counseling periods for schools where a person can go and have that kind of attention. So verbal bullying is maybe the hardest form of bullying to fight, but it also might be the most critical to fight. More than 1 out of every 5 students report being bullied. Of those students who report being bullied, 13% were made fun of, were called names, were insulted, and 12% of the subject were the subject of rumors. So this shows that was 25% of the students that were the victims of verbal bullying. And the problem is that this is only those who reported it. So there's so many more out there who didn't have the nerve probably to go and confront that issue. They were probably likely to do this because verbal bullying can't be proved, unfortunately, without witnesses. So people can perceive the students reporting verbal bullying as maybe overreacting. There's a possibility that they think that this was a lie completely, or they just might not think it's that big of a deal. And so these are the kinds of things that students have to wrestle with in their head when they're the victims of verbal bullying. It could especially be that way if they feel that they're not in a nurturing environment. So this could deepen the hurt of bullying and the feeling that the student has that they're alone and that it's never going to end. So this has the potential to damage a student internally or externally. Internally, it can cause depression, it can cause anxiety and sleep habits, messing up with your sleep habits. Externally, that can result in, those results of stress and depression where your hair starts falling out or you gain weight or you just are having so many headaches, and there's a series of results that can happen from that. But the most critical ones obviously are it would be when a student decides to manifest that in suicide or in self-harm in any kind of way, such as eating disorder. So I do want to take a moment and just say, though, that it's not good to say that suicide is the direct result of bullying, because this can normalize bullying and suicide connection, and it can cause a student to think that almost an A leads to B mentality of, if I'm being bullied, then the best way to get back at the bully is to commit suicide. And so we definitely want to steer away from that. However, at the same time, there is a link between it where students can feel that, obviously, going along with that if they don't feel that anybody is there to support them, that is their only way out. So it is critical to fight against bullying in this way. So it's a balance. So for my plan for action, I think that there needs to be an implementation of curriculum, in that there needs to be classes for counseling and mentoring, and that there needs to be the education of the seriousness and effects of bullying. So I think that whether it's just a week of classes where the students get to go to a mentoring session, or if they put an actual class into the school curriculum, I think that it's important that a student at least gets to go to counseling one time, because that can open them up to seeing that it's not something strange to do, and it can normalize it for them so that they can feel that it is an acceptable thing to go do, and that might further their desire to reach out to somebody. And then educating them in classes, having a class dedicated to fighting bullying, I think is very important. Teaching students about the effects of it, teaching students about the power of words, and how this can affect a bully in the future, and how this can affect a student who has been bullied in the future, to bring it to life for them and help them to understand it. I think that there needs to be a protocol of discipline of how to handle verbal bullying in schools. They need to know what they're going to do if a student is being verbally bullied, whether that's a suspension or just a detention. There needs to be some kind of follow-up for those things, because I think right now it's passed off as, because it was only words, it just matters that we just address it to the student and that's it. But there needs to be some kind of discipline. Also, I think there needs to be a lowered student ratio, or lowered student to teacher ratio, which would help with creating a comfortable environment and approachability with the teacher. Also, I think that there needs to be a monitoring of the things that children say to one another, and there needs to be enforcement, obviously, in stopping them from being mean to one another, which would go along with the follow-up. Stop Bullying, an organization, says teach kids about how to identify bullying and how to stand up to it safely. And also they say when adults respond quickly and consistently to bullying behavior, it sends the message that this is not acceptable. So research shows that this can actually stop bullying behavior over time. Part of the problem is kids not knowing what bullying really is. And so I think that we need to instruct them with knowing that sarcasm can be a form of bullying, that just joking isn't always just joking. So things like that. So if we do address this could result in a decrease of suicides. It could reduce and decrease of overall kids having self-harm, depression, and all those things that I listed before. And this could be ultimately saving lives. And it could also increase students' desire for learning, because students wouldn't be wanting to stay home from school so much out of fear. If we don't, it could result in kids continuing to grow in their hatred for school, which could then result in less kids graduating, leading towards poverty. It could be very bad. So in conclusion, verbal bullying needs to be addressed in the education system, because though it's the least noticeable form of bullying, I believe that it can wound students beyond their years in high school. And I would also just like to end with saying that I lead a group of 9th grade girls, and I see how this affects them. I see the mean things that they say to each other, and it breaks my heart. And I think that this is something that's extremely important for all people to know, because eventually they're going to be parents, they're going to be teachers, they're going to have some kind of contact with students, and it's an opportunity for them to help address these problems. Thank you.